Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good morning and a Merry Christmas week.
Yes.
Let's start off with that real good. I'll tell you, this has always been, from the time I was just knee-high to right now, probably my favorite week in anticipation. And now we've got, let's add Philadelphia to that background, and it's a big week.
Jerry, how long are you going to keep the lights up past Christmas?
Well, which lights? Now, I've got them most places I go, but I've run those things, I guess certainly, I think I've had them up before through Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
So let's try that on for a second.
All right. I've gone in with that one. Jerry, we mentioned that you didn't speak after the game. You're usually very accessible. And we love the fact that we're like the first ones that get to talk to you. But was there a particular reason you didn't speak after the game?
No, not at all. We were, of course, away from the area where we were sitting, and we were a little bit stunned, if you will, that we'd lost that ball game. And frankly, by the time that our logistics, as we saw them, got in shape there, I just decided to communicate with Mike and then again communicate with him yesterday.
So it's not Jerry is fuming so bad he didn't want to make a mistake saying something. He's so angry at this loss he didn't want to talk.
Well, disappointment. I would say that, I would say that having lost that chance to have that win and really stay in the hunt, if you will, for try to get that Conference Division title, maybe. All of that was on my mind as well. I didn't obviously just break neck, get on a scooter and try to get down there. Let's put it like that.
All right, Jerry, give us your overall assessment of the game with the way that you guys played and obviously how it eventually ended.
Well, we certainly gave ourselves a lot to work on over the next 3 weeks. And that's not looking ahead, but it's factual. We've got 3 weeks before we enter that playoff. And to get in there, we could get in there in a little different shape, we all know, by Philadelphia losing out and we winning out. But let's start right here. We have several things that we need to work on and improve. I thought Dak either said it or implied it, and that is we were going to go back and try to take the areas that we need to get better in, certainly before we get in the playoffs, and work on those. Well, that game exposed several areas for us to work on, and on defense as well as offense. And so I look at it as after the dust settles, I look at it as a go to work, use these next 3 weeks to basically look at if we're going to put some different personnel in different places, look at how they play, possibly take a player like Van Der Esch and get him ready to go. No, we're not planning on him this week, but certainly get him ready to go and look at personnel as well as how we're implementing the personnel.
Yeah, Jerry, when you talk about those areas, is it fair to say that maybe cornerback on defense and wide receiver on offense would be two major areas of concern, or are there others?
Yeah. Well, I think that at the risk of pointing an area out, we just need to basically not reassess, but to basically evaluate and look these next 3 games if we're going to put some different personnel in there, if we're going to put a different player, if we're going to play it that way, then look at the communication. Now, I'm not making excuses, but we put, at least in 3 different areas, we put 3 defensive players in at a different, than have had a lot of experience there the other day, and that really cost us. Cornerback, linebacker, and you might say what we did at some of our pressure. And all of that on defense gives us a lot to work on, but we can do it. That's the key thing. we have the talent out there to implement what we need to do here, and that's the good news. And we've got 3 weeks to get in here and make it, improve it.
Jerry, Dan Quinn said yesterday that there would be a competition at that cornerback spot opposite of Trayvon Diggs, mentioned Kelvin Joseph, Shan, some of the options that they have there. I know you guys just spent a lot of, a sizable amount of capital on Kelvin Joseph just a year ago as a second-round pick. Is it frustrating when you've got a second-round pick like that, deep into his second year and now you're having to have open competitions instead of him just seizing that job?
I wouldn't call it frustrating. I would say that that's the way it goes. Some draft picks, even though they're high draft picks, take time. Some draft picks don't get there like you want them to. There's a lot of varying in between putting the complete responsibility in a critical situation and on the come or getting better. And we're now getting down to the point where it's when we get in that playoff, it's win or go home, that we've got to put more emphasis on being able to play that day, that way against that team. And so we've got to not look at the future so much and look more at right now, this afternoon. What gives us the best chance? And by the way, what scheme gives us the best chance with that personnel? We can really zero in on it because that much at stake. So you might look at your personnel a little different is really what I'm trying to say, or what you're trying to do with your personnel than you do back up in the season.
Jerry Jones joined us here at 105 through the Fan. I wanted to get your take on the final series of regulation. Run, and then pass on 3rd and 10. What were you thinking during that series? Did you like the passive or the conservative approach? And then how'd you feel about going aggressive on 3rd and 10?
I'm not going to second guess that call. The world knows whether you go with a run the clock approach or whether you try to get it all right there. And I'm not going to second guess that call because it's too easy to do the opposite since it didn't work on your second guessing. But I understand what both were trying to do. I'm not so sure that it's as simple as run or pass there, which really is where most of the critique comes from, because if you run time off the clock. As there's another part of that equation, and it's the route and what you tried to do when you did decide to pass the ball. And that has to be and is certainly critiqued and looked at. In other words, the route and the people you've got in the route. And that's very critical here if we're going to decide to throw it rather than run time off the clock.
Jerry,
and that's the kind of thing that you'd be evaluating yesterday and evaluating this week, and if you run into the same circumstance again.
Jerry, we thought that Dak played very, very well. That last interception, unfortunate. We thought it was right there for Noah Brown to catch. The first interception, maybe he got his arm hit. How did you evaluate Dak's play on Sunday?
Outstanding. We can win with him playing like that to be trite. I thought he played outstanding. And as we see, he wasn't playing against chopped liver out there. And so I thought he did really well. I thought he made good decisions. Overall, we can, if he'll play like that, we can win most games.
Jerry, this is the second game here in about a month on the road where a big lead was lost. You had the 14-point lead in Green Bay, 17 points this weekend. Is that in particular concerning, some of these collapses on the road, especially knowing that if you don't win the division, you're going to have to play some road playoff games?
I've looked at these comebacks that we're having. No number is safe. And I think it has to do with the confidence in the I think it has to do with just a willingness to be more aggressive across the National Football League. And so I think that's why the leads aren't safe. And when I say safe, I don't know that they ever should use that word safe, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of comebacks, and you're seeing them a lot against teams that are some of the ones in our particular case that have a lot of respect for that defense. But the one thing about Sunday, let's give the Jaguars and let's give their quarterback everything he's due. That was an outstanding game he played, and he knew what we wanted to do with him on pressuring him, and that had everything to do with him having the skill set that he's got. We had trouble tackling him. We were on him a few times for losses. We couldn't get him down like you would think. He had something to do with that.
Jerry, are you concerned teams might be figuring the defense out?
Oh, I think that's what you do, and in football is you go in, and as teams move along, you adjust to meet what they do best. That's the name of the game. I'm not trying to be trite. That's why really in your portfolio, whether it's offense or defense side of the ball, that's why you need to have a large portfolio as you go into the playoffs, because teams are going to have read your mail all year long, and they're going to stop some of the things you do well in the playoffs. So you got to be ready to do something else. It's part of the deal.
Jerry, it looked like the defense, specifically on the linebacker side, really struggled when Leighton Vander Esch went out early in the game on Sunday. Do you expect that to be an extended absence? And I mean, is there any concern about if Leighton's out for a little while, maybe looking around the waiver wire trying to find a linebacker to add?
No, that I don't see us addressing it from outside at all. But we've really got some good players. That's one of the strengths where we are with our athletic ability, and really football ability, is our linebacker group. And we are going to, we will play better. We've got some guys that Vander Esch, when Vander Esch did leave, Jacksonville astutely took advantage of that, and that's a place where we can get better. We can play the scheme the way we want to play it with the people that we've got, even though we don't have Vander Esch to serve for a couple of games, but potentially.
Jerry Jones here on The Fan. How did you feel the rotation worked at right tackle with Peters and Tyron's return?
Tyron was amazing. That's quite an accomplishment for him to come in like that. And I thought Peters did very well. And so that's a good combination. That's really exciting to think that that's what you've got as we go forward here. And so I give it an A+. I feel very good about where we are with Tyron and Peters. But I think certainly you'd like anybody, you'd like to have a couple of them back out there. But when I look at the overall, I like the way our left tackle, the other Smith, he played physical. He was just amazing how physical he was. He had a couple of busts or a couple of them get away from him, but in general, he played well too. I really like the way we have shown the position flex, and I really like what we've done to get ready for the next weeks ahead in our offensive line.
So, Jerry, see if you think that this is fair, just a fan sentiment, and some of us, that the contender status for the Cowboys, 10-4 in the postseason, but it feels like with San Francisco and Philly, we've taken a little bit of a step backwards in terms of contender status. Is that fair, or are you think an overreaction?
I hate the negative, and you say, well, you're always trying to gild the lily, Jerry, and maybe I do. But step back seems a little harsh. We've got to realize that when we get there, the San Francisco is going to be really ready to play, even though they're on their third quarterback. And so everybody's coming in with some challenges. By the time we get there, we've got a chance to be really substantively better than we were against Jacksonville. We can be. And but one of them is Tyron, the very one you're talking about. He will get better as he plays, and even though that you're talking about probably a Hall of Famer. But so we can do that at various parts of our team, and we're so lucky to be able to sit here and say we can be better by the end of after we've played these last 3 games. That's the key. Not what you saw this weekend, but what you're going to see when we get in those playoffs. And we have a chance. We've got the weeks to do it. We're not sitting here talking about been in the playoff game in Jacksonville, won the game. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a month to get this team better, and we can do it.
Jerry, speaking of getting this team better, you were quoted by USA Today as saying Odell's going to join us. How close is that to happening?
I don't have an assessment of that, but as of this morning, we don't have anything. But I don't have an assessment. The reality is, though, that time is moving on down the road relative to being playing in the playoffs, and so every day diminishes our chances of getting going forward.
Jerry, you guys have been in pursuit of Odell Beckham. You added T.Y. Hilton. I know Michael Gallup was struggling coming off that ACL injury. We all thought that he had kind of turned a corner and was playing much better. Last couple weeks, just 3 catches total. Is that a function of needing to get him more involved in the offense, or do you think Michael Gallup's still just trying to find his game again?
We need to get him more involved, and he can be. But I will say this, when you run the ball as much as we did, which I'm all for, when you run the ball as much as we did, it's hard to get everybody as involved as you want them. And so, but that's what we've got. That's what we want to be having this conversation. Guys, did we run the ball too much? Do we need to make more opportunities for these receivers? But the game played to our hand, and we're sitting here about Gallup not getting enough touches or enough balls in his direction. What we wanted to do was what we did, and that is run the ball. And then we wanted to make them get in a situation where we could pin our ears back and rush him, and we didn't get it done. But we can win with that formula. And if so, then I hope to be having some conversations about, well, we need to have Gallup or, of course, Brown played the absolute best game of his career. It's a shame that he had to drop because up until then he was outstanding.
Yeah.
Jerry, there's reports that Jalen Hurts, could miss this game with a shoulder. As fans, we're like, just get him out of here. Let's get the easy win. But, like, for you, do you like to see the other team at full strength to get a good kind of idea of where your team is and kind of a benchmark?
Just by the nature of this conversation we're having this morning, we've got our hands full. It's a legitimate question. But, no, I don't give it a lot of thought as to who's over on the other side. Frankly, if this thing were more decisive about the winner of this automatically got the bye through the playoffs, then that might be something that I would have spent more attention to. But right now, I've got all of mine on the Cowboys and what we can do to get better, no matter who their quarterback is.
Jerry, last question. It was reported that from the owners' meetings that the NFL wanted to remind teams how much money is being spent on coaches who are no longer employed. Oh, what did you make of that and the reason for it? I mean, you guys are businessmen who know how much money you're losing or gaining. What was the reason for the league reminding teams of that? Is it just about continuity?
No, it's about the amount of money that is going there, and first, the obvious is the context of the message or the memo. But more importantly than anything, if you have policies that allow coaches that if some other team wants them to come work for them, and you have a contract, and you put in the contract, or don't put in the contract, but we're just allowing move around, which is another issue. Well, when you do that, you disrupt the sanctity of the agreement, because the coach stays even if the head coach leaves. Now, that's a mouthful, and I apologize to the listeners out here. But they're just reminding everybody that you're doing a lot of valuable resource for coaches that are being paid that aren't coaching. And that is, when you think about it, that's just, you go, duh, of course you are. If you make those kind of contracts and you change coach, the new coach comes in and he wants a different coach as his line coach.
Yeah.
So they don't stay. So you eat that if you're a club. And I understand it, and that's one area where each club manages its own dollars.
Jerry, thanks for the
I
time.
don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have an answer, but you're right. You're right. The league is reminding everybody that you're spending a lot of wasted money.
Yes, sir. Jerry, thank you for the time. As always, Merry Christmas week, and we cannot wait for the bounce back on Saturday. Thank you.
Well, guys, Merry Christmas.